All right, Mitch. How are we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Garrett?
Pretty good, pretty good. A little bit of technical difficulties this morning, but we got it all figured out. We came in the studio to record, and I had an error on my screen, and I was determined not to ask for help, but then we asked for help. And I just want you to know, Pastor Sean couldn't figure it out. The great Philip couldn't figure it out, but I figured it out after they left. I just turned the computer off and turned it back on.
There you go.
And it's working great.
Fresh restart.
So
our listeners don't know, but this is 3 hours later than we were planning on podcasting.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get to all the other stuff, I want to talk about last night real quick. So something pretty cool happened in our first Wednesday prayer. When I say all the other stuff, like sports and stuff, let's start off with Jesus this time. So last night was the first Wednesday of November. We have first Wednesday prayer on the first Wednesday of every month. And so last night there was a 19-year-old guy. I won't say his name because I didn't tell him I was going to talk about him, but he placed his faith in Jesus during the service last night, which is super cool. And there you go. And he works for Pastor Stephen, our worship pastor, who also owns a pool company. So Pastor Stephen, he's bivocational, and so this young man works for him. He's had a lot of people praying for him. Last night was his second time at our church. I haven't verified if it was his second time in church ever, but it was definitely only his second time doing anything with our church. Placed his faith in Jesus. Just a lot of people rallying around him. And then he went and connected with our college ministry afterwards. Just a lot of really cool things, man. Like, that's the good stuff. That's why we do it. That's why we do what we do. So it was just super cool to watch him step from death to life last night. It was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And like you said, we brought him up, got him plugged in with late night. He was right in that age range, and new believers. It's such a great place to be. And yeah, he mentioned, and kind of in passing, that he had a girlfriend, and I was just trying to get him to maybe bring her back next time. And so it's really exciting.
Super cool. Super cool. All right, let's do it in reverse. We'll do our sports updates at the end. So let's do it in reverse. What else has happened since the last time we podcasted? What's been on your mind, theologically, biblically, strategically? Start us off. What's a highlight for you?
You know, I gotta say, Amendment 4 didn't pass.
Oh gosh, we had an election. That's true.
We don't really have to talk a bunch of politics, quote unquote, but like we've been saying about Amendment 4. That's not just a political issue. It's abortion is a life and death issue.
Yeah.
So I have no problem saying anywhere and everywhere. I voted no on it, and I'm very glad it did not pass, although it had a nice majority of yeses, but not quite enough. And so I've been celebrating since then.
If you're listening and you don't live in Florida, you probably still heard of it, but we were one of 10 states of the 50 that had some sort of abortion constitutional state constitutional abortion amendment on the ballots. And of those 10 states, 8 of them passed, 2 of them did not pass, and Florida is one of the states where the abortion amendment did not pass. So we are very excited about that in Florida as Christians. But like you said, it needed 60% yes in order to pass, and it had 58%. So it technically didn't pass, but that's a lot of people in Florida that wanted it to pass.
Yeah.
So that was like bittersweet, mostly sweet because it didn't pass at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, do you know, like, I don't know can they being pro-abortion folks, can they try again in like 2 years? Like, or is that just,
what I'm assuming. I'm assuming they can try again at some point. I don't know if it's in every 4 years during a presidential election, if it's every year, if it's every 2 years. So that is my concern, that it was so close that if they do it again, are they going to get above that 60% margin?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to do it again or if they can do it again. I don't know how all that works. But for now, we're good to go. I know that was a big concern for just for Christians, period, but for our pregnancy and family care center in particular. I think that would have greatly affected how they do ministry. So that was a big deal for one of our ministries at the Christian Care Center. But that didn't pass. Trump Vance, they won. And that was crazy, man. I was telling you, I think I was telling somebody.
Trump and Garrett Haywood.
Trump
leaving the office.
I forgot. I meant to forward that around, just for fun. I still have time. There was JD Vance obviously is the vice president elect at this point. So like 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, January 23 or whatever.
Yep.
Somebody like sent a mass email because we sent a lot of emails around here, and it was like. Look at Garrett's doppelganger, and it was J.D. Vance as just Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Like, no, but I was like, I remember, like, you made it when you first brought it up to me. You made it sound like it happened like last week, and I missed it. And but when you were like, it happened 2 years ago, and it was Al that sent it around or whatever. I was like, I remember that, and I remember just being like, who is this guy? I just like deleted it, like who, like whatever.
Yeah.
And here he is about to be our vice president.
Man,
crazy.
Prophetic.
I don't think I look that much like him. I think he has longer hair than me. The beard, I think, is probably what does it.
I think so.
I think if I grew my hair out and like styled it differently, I could, and put on like a coat and tie, I could probably pull off a JD Vance impression. So, Trump Vance won. I was telling somebody that the last time I watched a presidential election in 2020, November 2020, I had no children, and we weren't even pregnant with our first kid. And here we are with a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and 1-year-old. So that's nuts. But any other, I mean, not who'd you vote for and all that kind of stuff, but any other election reflections? I mean, that's a big deal in the life of our country.
Yeah, not too many. I mean, Amendment 3 was another one. It was legalizing recreational use of marijuana for anybody 21 and over. And so that... I kind of expected that one to pass. That had closer to 54 or 55% yes, so less yeses than abortion, which is just upsetting. But I care about that one, but I kind of jokingly / just because I care much more about not having abortions than if people are smoking weed.
If you had to pick one, I guess. Yeah.
But so it was good to see both of those not pass.
So, I wonder if you understand how all this works, but like I was opposed to it just like out of conviction, but there are also some, like I don't mind telling people how I voted on these amendments. I won't tell people how I voted on some other things, but, I was opposed to that amendment just out of conviction, but there were some pro marijuana people who were opposed to that amendment for some sort of like corporate reason. Like they didn't want corporations to monopolize weed or something. You know what I'm talking about?
It's the way I've heard it, and I don't understand it much more deeply than that. But I think I've heard that in the past of, pro marijuana people don't want it to be, basically that. I don't know what other terms to use, but corporations can monopolize it, and it would, I got way too many. I don't know how I got on people's lists. I got tons of political texts, and I don't think I got any calls, but I got a bunch of texts about, this made with yes on 3, and this made with no on 3, and this made with yes on 4, and I'm just like, I would opt out, and sometimes I feel like if you respond, even if you opt out, like they get your number around to other people. I don't know how it works, but I got too many of them. But I did get one that was like, they're not saying weed should be illegal, but they're just like, if this specific thing passes, it's not good for the weed industry. So that's very interesting to see either side of it.
So theological excursus here. Why shouldn't Christians, I would say smoke weed, but there's other ways to ingest it as well. Like why shouldn't Christians engage with marijuana?
That's a good question. I read a book recently that came out within the past couple years or so. Todd Miles wrote a book called Cannabis and the Christian. And it's not a big read. And so if you're interested at all in the topic, it's an easy read and it's not a very long book. But he goes through what we have in Scripture about using substances and getting, being affected by a substance and the purposes for using things and what the law says about it. Because he's like, for the longest time, Christians have been able to say it's illegal, so it's bad. And as it's becoming more legal, it's closer to an alcohol topic of can you use it without being drunk in a sense, or you don't get drunk off marijuana, but like, can you use it without it hindering you in that kind of way that, like, people have vastly different convictions about casual alcohol consumption, and so that's becoming a hotter topic. Maybe we could do a fifth week of our hot topics and do weed. Well, we do have a series coming up. We can talk about alcohol or something, maybe.
Well, I think that is the kind of at least for me, that's like the crux of the question is like, I think even Christians that don't drink would say it's out of like personal preference. I don't think there's any Christians that are out there saying like drinking casually is unbiblical.
Oh, they're definitely out there, but maybe it's fewer. Maybe it's fewer than you would think.
That's true.
There are people, and I don't even think it's like 1 out of a million. Like I know people personally that are that convicted about it.
Okay.
But that's typically, it's like, I know you technically can, but I just don't really think you should.
So I think that's so there probably are some people saying it's unbiblical, but I think the crux of the question still for me is like the Christian who says drinking is okay casually. Of course, drunkenness is not okay. How can that same Christian say weed is bad?
Yeah.
At any, like, there is no moderation. Like, that's the word, moderation. Like, how can you engage moderately with alcohol, but you have to completely abstain from weed? Like, can those two things coexist? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think they can. Again, just referencing that book, he did. There's something a good point that he makes is that the type of drug that weed is, or cannabis, or whatever this technical term that turns into different whatever. The grade or type of the drug is prevents it from being tested as much, and so he prefaces his book by saying there's limited research on anything of the effects of it and stuff like that. But from the research that he had found, because a common way to handle like cannabis or marijuana or whatever is smoking it, and he talks about the lung damage, and like there are physical negative physical effects from smoking weed. And a common thing people think about marijuana is that it's not addictive, but he showed that it is. It's not as addictive as things like cocaine and stuff like that, but it's still, humans can become addicted to anything, but there is still some sort of addictive substance to it, to where like that's just been a common thing. People just say, well, weed's not addicting, like it can be addictive. It can be physically harmful to your lungs and things like that. And so I need to skim through that again and just have a better defense for it.
So what do you think about this? So the argument that I've heard recently is you can drink without getting drunk. You cannot engage with marijuana of any kind at any level, amount of any amount, without getting high. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to go test it, but that's one of the arguments I've heard recently from someone who, doesn't smoke weed now, but smoked it in the past, whatever. Doesn't drink now, but drank in the past. They were like, you know what? You can drink without getting drunk. You can't smoke without getting high, or chew gummies without getting high, whatever. I mean, no, I haven't seen any like studies. It's all anecdotal as well. But it just seems to me like, well, it doesn't seem to me. This is still like the crux of my question. I'm not saying marijuana is okay, but it just seems like if you're going to say alcohol is okay, you have to say marijuana is okay. Or if you're going to say marijuana is bad, you have to say alcohol is bad. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to figure out if there is a way for like you to say one's okay, but one's not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. Part of that, I guess, is like and we can. I don't know enough about certain people on different sides saying like in the wine they would drink in Jesus' days, if it was not nearly as high of an alcohol content or whatever. People make those inferences, and I don't know where they get it from, and that doesn't mean they don't get it from somewhere reliable. But there are, like, alcohol consumption is, it's not really prescriptive that you should do it, but it's, in the many ways, it's descriptive in Scripture. It doesn't seem like it's always, the consumption of it is always condemned, and it was a common thing to do in celebrations and festivals and stuff. So I think you can make a biblical case that, like, consumption in moderation on the right occasion is not a bad thing. But then the problem is the Bible doesn't say anything for or against marijuana.
Right. Like the same text, like you would use. That's probably where I'm thinking out loud with you. But that's probably where my hang up is like the same text that you would use to speak against marijuana would be the same text, like be of sober mind, be drunk on the Holy Spirit, not drunk on wine. Like, I guess that's where you would go to, like, speak against marijuana, but that's a text about alcohol. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there are no, like, Ephesians 4 is about alcohol and Ephesians 7 is about marijuana. Ephesians 7 doesn't exist, by the way.
Well, so maybe it is. But we didn't get the extended version.
I don't know. It's like I'm just kind of wrestling. I don't think I'm going to come out on the other side of this wrestling pro marijuana. In fact, I don't. I was just going to say I won't. Like,
yeah.
Not that I don't think I will. I will not. But I'm just trying to be coherent in my thinking. Like, if you're going to walk around and say, like, drunkenness is bad, but moderate consumption's okay. But marijuana of any kind, of any amount, is not okay. Like, how do those things mesh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Todd Miles makes a pretty good case against recreational use of marijuana because of from a biblical conviction, but also just the physical harm it does to your lungs from smoking anything, and the biblical convictions about not altering your mind with substances. Like, there's a case to be made there, but he also talks about he talks about the medicinal uses for marijuana. But he said one thing I remember highlighting was that there's medical marijuana, quote unquote, and you consume it in different ways. But there's medical marijuana that you smoke, and maybe it's different than recreational use. But he said it has the same harmful effects as recreational in terms of if you're smoking something.
Interesting.
And he just goes into, you need to rely on the Spirit and, ask for discernment when it comes to medicinal uses that are potentially harmful. And if you're sure that that's the best way to treat your anxiety or your glaucoma or whatever. So he seems to lean a little on the other side of, like, he's not convinced that there's ever a case where medical marijuana of any kind is the best option to deal with your medical issue. But then he goes into cannabis oil, and if I'm not mistaken, he basically says cannabis oil is, like, all good to go. And he talks about, I'm forgetting it now, because he talks about I wish I had the book now. But there's some kind of, like, there's something, I think, added, or when you have the plant and you concentrate it and do things, like, there's two different kinds of things, and, like, the more you have of one, the less you have of the other, and vice versa, and one is good and one is bad. And so, like, the cannabis oil doesn't have whatever I'm forgetting is called. It doesn't have any or doesn't have much, and, like, there's, like, the biggest case for that is, like, children that just have, like, seizures all the time, and they just consume this stuff or use this lotion, whatever they do, and they stop having seizures. Like, it'd be for medicinal purposes of something that doesn't really have harmful effects. It's hard to make a case against stopping children from having seizures. That's maybe an extreme example, but, like, there are good medical benefits to aspects of it. But that's all kind of all I remember about the medicinal uses and the THC. THC is the bad stuff. So the more THC, the less, I don't know if it's cannabinoid or whatever. because they do stuff where they really concentrate and have a way higher level of THC, and it's harmful and psychedelic and things like that. But there's a way to have less or none of that and still have the medicinal benefits. And I could be totally misrepresenting all of that, but get that book. It's a good book.
I'm tracking with you. It's like I heard another, I guess, like devil's advocate argument, I suppose, was like if you're gonna say no to any kind of marijuana, including medicinal marijuana, then you have to say no to like all medicine, which is kind of an extreme case to make. But the counter argument was then, well, marijuana alters your mind, but like Tylenol doesn't alter your mind. Well, yes, it does. Like the way Tylenol works is it like disrupts the pain receptors in your brain. It's altering your mind. Like, yeah, that's like I don't know this for sure. I'm not that kind of doctor, but like that's like what all medicine does almost. Is it alters your mind. So I don't know. I'm not making a case for medical marijuana, I don't think, but I think Christians have a lot of articulating to do in this area that we haven't done. I think this is a cultural moment that I don't think we have a well articulated position on. Right. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because for the longest time we can just say it's illegal, so you shouldn't do it. Right. But he addresses in a section of the book about things like caffeine and pain medication, stuff like that, and I don't remember word for word what he says on that. I think he does make the case that is a different kind of mind altering that's beneficial to you without like a negative side effect. But just last thing I'll say about that is just something kind of funny or ironic, I guess, and to show how controversial this topic is. Hey, this guy Todd Miles speaks, maybe still he does. When he mentioned in the book, he's spoken at a lot of places, college campuses, and all over the country. Maybe he speaks on this topic, and he said every single time he speaks on it, there's a line of people on one side that's mad because he seems so pro marijuana, and there's another line of people that are just as mad that he's so anti marijuana. And so it's that controversial that he's just trying to objectively see like the good and bad things from it, what the Bible says, and how we should and shouldn't be using it, and just everybody's mad.
That means he's doing a good job of
yeah, I think so.
Of not being neutral, but exploring both sides of the argument. He's not in an echo chamber, as they say. Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, Amendment 4 didn't pass. Amendment 3 didn't pass. A lot of good stuff. Crazy election season, man. I mean, just wild. No matter who you voted for, like this was just a wild season. So I'm glad it's mostly behind us. I haven't really seen a whole lot of aftermath. But I mean, that was a while. I mean, just like a candidate dropping out 3 or 4 months before, whenever that was, and then a candidate getting shot at, and then a second assassination attempt. No shots were fired in that one, but like just a wild season. So I'm glad that one's over. I'm glad, again, no matter who you voted for, I'm just glad like the results were in quickly. You know, the loser conceded, not right away, but kind of later on, 24 hours later. Just it was good. It's good that that's over.
Is there anything notable about? I haven't really seen much about it since I just heard who won and that 4 didn't pass. Did Kamala say anything publicly? Just a generic public loser's speech, or not calling her like a loser, but
yeah, she lost. She spoke last night finally. Yeah. So 2020 was pretty wonky. This was a little better, a little smoother than 2020. Again, not smoother because like Trump won this time and didn't win last time, but just historically, like part of our democracy is like when you lose, you call the other candidate, congratulate them, you get out publicly and concede right away and tell them that they have your full support and you're going to help them transition if you're the one in office, blah blah blah. And so this one was a lot smoother. I mean, Kamala didn't come out like that night and concede, which is unusual, but she did come out 24 hours later and give a public speech and all that kind of stuff. So still a lot smoother than 2020. But yeah, she spoke last night. So,
Okay.
So yeah, man, it's behind us. There's a lot ahead of us, but like hopefully the craziness is behind us of that whole election cycle. That was a crazy one.
Yeah.
So that was a crazy one. And you could feel it. Like I preached on Sunday. Well, I guess we'll get to some other stuff that's happened between our last, now and our last podcast. Like I preached on Sunday, and like it's on everyone's minds. It's 2 days away. It's like I made some comments about. I told like a political joke, and then made some comments about the election and how God's on his throne and blah blah blah, like neutral stuff. But like that was the most interactive part of the service. Like, it was in the third service, so I was telling Hannah afterwards, because Hannah was in student ministry during the third service. But like, I told that political joke about the little boy, writing his note to the president and getting money back, and how those politicians take half your money and blah blah blah, and like the whole room just was like laughing their heads off. And then there's one guy in the back in the 11 o'clock service that liked it a little too much, and like the laughter's dying down, and he's like, yeah I'm like, calm down, like let's get back to Jesus.
That was the one I wasn't in. I gotta listen back to that one.
You can hear it in the recording. Like everyone's just like rolling laughing at the punchline, like a super canned like joke, corny joke, but like everyone loved it. And then it's like the laughter's dying down. He's like, yeah like, I was like, okay like, calm down. Oh, it was good. It was on everyone's minds for sure. So let's see. I preached on Sunday, so preached 3 services in a row.
3 in a row for the second time ever.
Yeah, I've only done it twice, and both times have been here. So I've preached on a Sunday morning, a couple times in my previous church, several times here, but I've only done it 3 times in a row, twice in my life, and both times have been here. And so I was a little tired afterwards, but nothing crazy. Like I don't think any more so than doing 2 in a row. So that was not too bad. Preached on John 4, woman at the well. Standalone message. Felt like it went okay. Let's see. I got to feel out the 3 different services. And so we have an 8:30, a 9:45, and 11. It's kind of new. We've been in this format for about 8 weeks now, and we've tried 3 services in various ways. This way is the first time it's really working for us. All 3 services are balanced with room to grow. It's really awesome actually for this downtown campus, but they each kind of have their own feel to them. And the early one, super energetic, super interactive. The last one, very energetic, very interactive. That middle one, though, which is the one that we attend, actually.
Yep.
Before we go to student ministry 11, that middle service, man, is it's flat. Like it's just flat, and that was surprising to me. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So I was glad that I didn't finish with that one. I was glad that I finished with the most energetic of the 3.
For sure.
But that middle one kind of threw me off. So I brought a student up. Alex feels called to ministry, so he came up and read the scripture. So I felt good about it. Thought it was a good day.
It's funny, we're so used to being a clean like 11 to 12, not a 9:45 to 10:45, and so somebody that was sitting in my row wasn't like dreading the sermon or anything, but looked at the time. It's like, oh my gosh, it's only 10:30. I'm like, well, it ends at 10:45. Like, you might be thinking it just goes to 11, but it's like there's still 30 minutes left. Like, he's almost done. But it's just kind of, that's just random passing thought. But I've kind of thought that too. Like, I'm never in there like, man, when's this going to end? But I'm like, you have to adjust to you going to 45, not the next hour.
Well, I thought I had preached short both times because my manuscript was a few hundred words shorter than normal. And then the first 2 services we let out like 4 or 5 minutes early or whatever. So I was sitting here thinking, man, I'm preaching short. Well, short would have been like 26 minutes, 27 minutes. Like I was aiming for like 30 on the dot. And but when I pulled the recording and watched it back, it was 31 minutes. So like I think the service as a whole was just running short.
Okay.
But the first couple of services had me nervous, like I was going short. I don't think it was like noticeably short. Like we've talked about that before. Like I think if you go 26 instead of 30, I don't think anyone's going to notice. If you go 12 instead of 30, people will notice, But I would have noticed, and it would have bothered me. I was like, I want to give them more substance, but not too much. And it was 31, so it was right on, which was good. So, yeah, it was a good time. Good time. It was time change Sunday as well.
Yeah.
So,
love gaining the hour. Always hate losing it.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was nice because I got in early that Sunday to kind of run through things a couple times before all the services started, but it didn't feel as early, because of the time change. But, our girls did okay. Gunner, he's one. He didn't like the time change too much because he dropped a nap right before the time change. So he didn't like that very much. So he's figuring it out. But what else has happened since the last time we podcasted? Let's see. Oh, you tell them about the men's center.
Oh yeah,
teaching.
Yeah, man. I get to preach or teach, whatever you want to call it, at the men's rehab center yesterday. As of this is Thursday, it was like the 8th or something, 7th. So November 6th, I got to fill in for Pastor Cliff and teach from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I've done it a couple times before, and that's a big slot. Like I'm used to student college ministry, you preach for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Like your whole service time is maybe an hour. But it's an awesome opportunity. And I had a little more of a notice this time. And I was going to go through a book that I think is really dope. It's making the case for looking at the biblical case for the deity of Jesus. And I got a cool acronym. And I just like in my mind, I was like, I would love to teach on this somewhere one day. And then Garrett was like, yeah, if I was teaching, I'd probably just do a run through of our 4 hot topics that we did in October with our student college ministry. And I'm like, you know what? Like not just out of laziness, like I've preached these so I don't have to prep, but I'm like, that sounds like a really cool idea because I've loved our hot topic series.
Yeah, it's not lazy. Like it's good content that's fresh on your mind. Like I just did an FCA today, which we can talk about FCAs in a minute. I just did an FCA today and did abbreviated version of a message that I did a couple months ago. That's good good content that's fresh on my mind that they haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think it's lazy at all. Anyways.
Yeah. So I was like, man, that's a great idea. And so I did kind of try to work because I just do kind of my sermon notes on the notes on my phone, and then it just is kind of connected to my iPad. And so I was combining all of them together and kind of running through it again and seeing if I'm going to change anything. And then I had the thought, like, I'm like, we could get through all of this and just do it a little bit quicker than like 4 sermons that were 15 or 20 minutes. If you can get it, if they were each 10 or 15 minutes, you can get through all 4 topics. But I was like, if we don't get through it all, I don't want to rush through it just to say I covered everything. And so we started with abortion, and we never got past abortion. Like I made a couple notable mentions of the other topics at the end just to say, by the way, guys, here's a couple cool things we found in these other ones. But like right away, the guys were asking really good questions about just what makes abortion such a hot topic. And we got into the word in Psalm 139 and gave some points about how we should view babies as blessings and believe there's life in the womb and fight for life at all ages and stages. And so I still made sure to work that in to get into the Bible and not just have like a TED talk about a political topic, you know. But we had good gospel conversation, and it was great. There were a couple guys that just kept popping in and asking really good questions. And I've been so passionate about the topic lately. I've read a book on it. I've preached on it. And so I felt really well prepared because they asked some tough questions, but it's been so fresh on my mind. Like I was able to answer them. I think I answered them well. And if there was something that wasn't unclear, these guys were very vocal, like, well, what about this? Or you haven't brought this up. And I was like, well, let's talk about that. And man, I could have stayed there all day, man. It was so, so cool. And I woke up Wednesday morning. Well, I really went to bed with confidence, but I woke up Wednesday morning, confirmed that Amendment 4 didn't pass. And I was like, guys, we're starting with abortion. By the way, this terrible amendment didn't pass, and so let's celebrate.
That's what I was about to say, is like it was risky. You still would have talked about it, and the things you were going to say would have still been true, but like it really would have stunk if you walked in there to do an abortion talk after Amendment 4 passed.
Yeah.
Thankfully it failed. that made your talk
maybe
a lot.
a slightly different tone and bring it up. But yeah, that was. Thanks for bringing that up because that was I was hyped all day.
Also, when we excuse me. Also, when we did it at in student ministry and college ministry, it was Hurricane Milton week, and so it was virtual. That was the only hot topic we did virtually, so you had a chance to circle back and do it with a live audience.
Yes,
which was cool too. So.
Yeah, and it was more like small group based, like late night. We weren't gonna do like I would love to, but it wasn't. Late night's not designed to be like a Q&A kind of thing. Like I was just gonna preach on it. So yeah, it was. I told you, I can be a victim of the moment sometimes, but I was so hyped. I was like, that might have been my favorite time I've ever preached or been in a small group or whatever you want to call it. Just happened. Like that was the coolest one that I've had.
It's a good audience. Let's see. We've also, speaking of FCA, we engaged with several FCAs this week. So we're in downtown Leesburg, Florida, and our downtown campus, our other two campuses have some other schools that are a little closer to those locations. But from our downtown campus, we're kind of targeting 5 schools. Oak Park Middle is a public middle school. Carver Middle School is a public middle school. Both of those feed into Leesburg High School. It's a public high school. There's also the First Academy. Sorry, not the First Academy, just a First Academy. And that's our school, our Christian school, connected to our church, partnered with our church. And then there's Villages. So Villages Middle School, Villages High School. So those are kind of our 7 schools if you separate out like
I guess 6.
FA Middle, FA High.
VHS. I don't think Villages Middle has one. They were going
Carver doesn't really either. So, but those are still like our target schools.
Yeah, you're right.
To like reach people on those campuses. So, I guess what we have discovered is like Carver sort of has a gathering, but it's just like for the middle school girls volleyball team or something, which would be odd for us to show up to. Maybe not, but
I think probably a little bit.
Yeah,
just odd enough.
A little bit. Yeah, odd enough to not do it.
Yeah.
But anyways, Villages Middle School, like you've already mentioned, also has nothing going on right now, FCA wise or Christian club wise. But most of the other ones do. So you've kind of worked on getting those schedules for us. So Leesburg High School every 4 weeks. We went to that one a few weeks ago. We talked about that. Villages High School every Tuesday morning, which is awesome.
At a ripe 6:45 a.m.
Yeah, it's there. I found their Instagram. It says 7 a.m., so maybe we could be a few minutes late.
Okay. Next
time, but still, yeah, it's early and it's out there. Oak Park Middle is every other Tuesday at 8 a.m., and then FA Middle School is like every other Thursday-ish, and high school is like every 4th Thursday or something. Once a month?
I feel like it's every Thursday.
Oh, like I said,
every Thursday or every other. And theirs is Thursday morning at like 6:30 or 7 a.m. or something.
The high school is.
Yeah.
I haven't been to that one yet, but so we went to. Let's just kind of recap. We did 3 FCAs this week. We went to Villages High School FCA, which it was pretty good group there. That was awesome. I think it's still a new school. So I think they're still kind of getting their footing under them in terms of what FCA needs to look like out there.
And they've had a recent leadership change that affected that momentum too.
Yeah. But they're about to host a big, it's called Fields of Faith. And I think it's not just local here. I think Fields of Faith is like a FCA all over the country does different Fields of Faith events, but they're about to have a Fields of Faith at the Villages High School next week, which is Wednesday night. So we're going to, basically not have youth group that night and go out there. So that'll be cool. Yeah, there's a good little group out there at Villages High School, which is all. We have a lot of students that go to that school. I only saw a couple of them at the FCA, so a lot of potential to get some more of them involved and kind of do some cool things with that partnership. Probably my favorite one this week was the Oak Park Middle School FCA. So that one, that one was just awesome. Like we showed up and the teacher sponsor was just super passionate, super organized. Had another youth pastor from down the street doing a Devo. Had an FCA rep there with little devotional books and with donuts, and did a organized game with them, and then sat them all down and fed them donuts and did the devotion. introduced us, kind of hyped us up a little bit. Like that was awesome. Like that's exactly what an FCA should be. Like it was so great.
And you haven't even mentioned Eric.
Yeah, Eric was Eric, if you're listening, I really did enjoy, like, so I don't even know how to like describe it. So like we were there. First of all, we went to the wrong school. I
forgot to tell Carrie that. I'm going to mention that to her.
We went to Leesburg Elementary School, and we walked in. We'd never been to Leesburg Elementary or Oak Park Middle. We walked in the front office of Leesburg Elementary. We're like, we're here for the FCA. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like the FCA with the coach. And she's like, are you sure it's here? I'm like, this is Oak Park. She's like, no, it's not. Oh, that was a good one. That's a good memory.
Send two blind guys on a hunt to a school they've never been to.
I felt fine. I was like, this sure looks like a school. Like, surely it's Oak Park. And it was
That's
not.
your thought process. It's like, where are
I said it so confidently. She's like, are you sure it's here? I'm like, yeah, this is Oak Park. Like, I was almost like borderline snarky. I was like, yeah, this is Oak Park. And she's like, no, it's not. And I was like, am I in a post office? Like, where am I right now? I didn't know where I was after that. I was so lost. But anyway, so we made it to Oak Park, and like, front office, give them your ID, get your sticker, go to the FCA location. We're looking for the FCA teacher sponsor. And then there's just this seemingly random math teacher that just loves Jesus and loves students. And just like here's like, oh, you're here for the FCA, I'll walk you over, and just like was walking with us and was like talking to us the whole time about like all his dreams for like reaching the campus, and like he wants to do this and do this and do this, and like it was awesome. And then he drops us off at the FCA location. He's like, yeah, come see me after. And I was like, okay, sure. And it's like we did the whole FCA thing, and we went to see him, and he like was just so passionate and excited, and like told us some more of his dreams for the campus and all that kind of stuff. And we left, and I was like, who is that guy? Like he's not like he's not the teacher sponsor for FCA. He didn't even go to FCA. Like I don't. He even asked us. He's like, "You guys ever been to an FCA huddle?" I was like, "We just went to one. We were just there for like an hour."
Just huddle up sometimes.
It's like I'm still not, other than like being a math teacher. Like I'm still not sure like who he's affiliated with, or like if anybody, or if he just is super excited about Jesus and middle schoolers. But like that was a fun surprise, just hanging out with Eric. So, but anyways, Oak Park was my favorite FCA. I don't know about you, but like
that was good. I mean, like you said, the one we went to before seemed like they were still trying to gain momentum and figure out how they want to program it. Like Oak Park, and I think we both would have said we expected it kind of the other way around, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's my first time ever being at Oak Park. I went to Carver Middle, and so I never went to Oak Park. But it's so close to our church, which is awesome. And yeah, it's a good program, and they had a good amount of students there, and it was a fun time. I met some kids. I would love to go back the next time they meet. Yeah,
they meet every other Tuesday. It makes me want to go to that one every time. And then maybe, I'm just thinking out loud with you right now on air, maybe like only go to the Villages one whenever we go to the Oak Park one, because you can just like stack them on top of each other.
Yeah.
Like the Villages one was good, but like the Oak Park one was like really good.
Right.
So, yeah, that was awesome. And then today at the FA Middle School FCA, I had the chance to speak, which, you know, you always got to like, you don't have any visual aids. They're really just there for the cookies. They're eating their lunch while you're speaking. You don't have a microphone. You know, it's kind of a unique speaking setting. So, tried to talk more like a coach than like a preacher, you know. But that was a good one. I know a lot of those kids, but like not all of them. So it's always a good opportunity whenever they ask me to come over and do that. So, yeah, just trying to be. We've talked about this on the podcast a little bit. Trying to be more involved in schools and doing it through people that are already present on the school campuses. So it was great. Really, really good. The Oak Park one, man, was just so awesome. Anything else happened between today and the last time that we podcasted?
It's worth mentioning, even though we didn't go, but Sunday we had our fall festival.
Oh yeah, we had Sunday night fall festival on the farm. It happened. I didn't make it, and everybody knows I didn't make it. I'm not confessing on air. My kids just weren't. I have young children, and the thing was 40 minutes one way from my house, and the sun was setting an hour earlier. We wanted to go. We've been there before. We like that farm. It just wasn't happening for the Haywoods. But I heard it was a decent turnout. I think the time change. I don't think we realized till 5 days before that we planned this thing 6 months ago on time change day. So that was a swing and a miss. And so not a swing and a miss in general, just a swing and a miss in terms of I think we would have done it differently if we had realized it was time change day.
A week before, maybe.
So yeah, probably. But we had fall festival that night. So it was good. I didn't get to go, but I heard good things. So what else?
Halloween happened, and that's not.
It did. Yes, yeah.
It's not really the biggest thing, but that is kind of what the fall festival thing is, representing maybe a safer way to get candy and have fun. But Carrie and I are a few months into being first-time home buyers, and we have I think I was more excited. I don't know. I was having memories of trick-or-treating as a kid, and it was so fun. And so I was I've seen families around our street we live on and on the block, and so I'm man, I'm kind of excited to be a homeowner, because we were in an apartment for 2 years, so at least at our door, people weren't trick-or-treating in the apartments on Halloween, but maybe they did. But we were just excited to have maybe dress up, which we didn't really do anything creative to dress up. I have purple sweatpants and a purple hoodie, and I just wore a bunch of purple. I don't know why. I was just let me just wear all purple. Is there a McDonald's purple blob guy or something like that?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is Barney. I don't know who the McDonald's guy is.
I think there's a McDonald's. But anyways, I'm building this up, but we only had one family. There was 3 kids that showed up together, and their parents were kind of on the sidewalk waving, and they had costumes on, and so we were we got trick-or-treaters, and that was it. And so we wanted more kids, but we still have a lot of candy we've been mowing through, so that's always fun.
I just don't like candy, man. Personally. I just don't. I can't remember the last time, other than a mint, the last time I had candy.
Oh my goodness,
it's crazy. Or
I eat fruit snacks every day.
Maybe there's M&M's in a cookie or something. I just don't. Yeah. I just don't eat candy in general.
You just had sprinkles on that sugar cookie.
Ooh, I did have a lot of cookies. Yeah, love cookies. I'm glad you brought up Halloween though, because it's we didn't have any fall festivals at any of our campuses this year. We had the one tri-campus, because we're a multi-site church, one church, 3 locations. We had that one tri-campus fall festival at the farm initiative, but kind of some grassroots things we did. I think each campus had a few homes in some target neighborhoods where they kind of posted up in the driveway and passed out candy and flyers and invited people to church. And so our house is actually significantly closer to our south campus than to our downtown campus. We're half a mile from the south campus and 5 miles from downtown. And so we partnered up with the South Campus crew, and we were one of 4 neighborhoods where they had a kind of an outpost in, and so the kids director down there and her husband and another volunteer brought a bunch of candy and different things and flyers and stuff and posted up in our driveway and kind of reached out to our neighborhood. And we didn't have a ton of traffic, but we connected with more families than I expected, because we're in a new build neighborhood, and the neighborhood's finally finished, and it's completely inhabited, I guess would be the right word.
Yeah.
And so we had some we connected with a lot of families that we knew and some families that we hadn't met yet, and invited them all to church. And so that was cool. I enjoyed that. Hannah enjoyed it too. Hannah and the kids were out in the driveway the whole time.
That's fun.
And just playing with beach balls and passing out candy. And so that was a fun time. Let's see. I guess the last thing would be, I think we're still working out some of the details, but I think we are far enough down the road to where we probably need a whole nother episode at some point, because we remember episode 1 Effective Student Ministry episode 1 was on curriculum. We are rethinking our curriculum a little bit, so we're about to do something pretty cool, where we'll continue kind of our current Wednesday night strategy moving forward, where it's kind of self-produced, monthly topical series kind of thing. Like this past month was the month of October, 4 hot topics, a different hot topic each Wednesday, that kind of thing. And it's all self-written. But starting in January, on Sunday mornings, all 3 of our campuses, all age groups, will be in Gospel Project, which is a Lifeway curriculum, on the same unit, same lesson, which I'm pretty excited about. And so we kind of stumbled into it. I don't want to make it sound too accidental because it had some intentionality behind it, but we kind of stumbled into kind of the vertical alignment, like birth through parents at each campus, as well as the horizontal alignment across all 3 campuses. We kind of stumbled into it, but it's pretty cool where like kids, students, and parents groups on Sunday mornings will all be at all 3 campuses in the same unit, same lesson of Gospel Project, starting first Sunday in January 5th. So we're still kind of working out a few different small details of that, but like I think the decision is official enough to kind of like talk about it publicly, and I'm excited for it. So I don't know if any of our listeners use Gospel Project. If not, it's good stuff, good content. But yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You've been in some of those conversations.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It'll be cool to be unified more as a church and with our different campuses, and that's good stuff. Like we've used that in our student ministry before for a little bit of both of Sundays and Wednesdays, and it's always good content. And so I think it'll be effective for the student ministry.
Yeah,
for the effective student ministry.
Yeah. It's good because like there's so many opportunities with like in terms of family ministry, because now all age groups are on the same stuff. You can really resource people in terms of like when you all come together. When I say you all come together, when the 3 campuses come together, you've been doing the same stuff. So there's some opportunities to leverage there. There's some social media opportunities because you're all doing the same stuff. There's, just on down the line. We're going to save some money because we're all under one account. There's just so many cool things about it. But first and foremost, like I think it's going to help us disciple our students well. Because I was looking at like several sample lessons of Gospel Project as I was like thinking through and praying through, like, do we really want to do this? And I'll admit, like, I was skeptical of the whole canned curriculum thing, but it's really well done. Like, it's kind of everything we're doing already in terms of providing them with like a Bible passage every Sunday with some discussion questions, plus we scan a commentary and send it to our leaders if they want to read some commentary on the passage. We try to include a theological question every week from New City Catechism. Like, we're doing our own stuff right now. And then I was reading through like several Gospel Project sample lessons, and it's all like, here's a passage with questions, and here's some commentary for the leaders, and here's a theological question. And here I was like, okay, this is everything we're doing. Just it looks nicer. So yeah. Like, we might as well just do it, man. It's I'm pretty excited for it. So that's a cool thing that we've kind of been working on behind the scenes, and that'll kick off in a couple months. So I'm pumped about that, actually. Like, that's
man.
It's we really stumbled into the whole, like, the point of origin for the conversation, I think, was, and this is a student ministry team, was kind of talking about curriculum at all 3 of our campuses in student ministry. And as I started asking around about it, asking our discipleship education pastor, asking our children's pastor, asking our executive pastor, asking just different people, I was like, wait a second, like there's an opportunity here, not just to align like student ministry, but to align kids and parents, and like it's pretty sick. So anyways, enough about that.
That's great.
But like that's a big piece of what we do, is not just pizza and ping pong, but like getting kids to
Cokes and jokes.
Yeah, we got to get kids to follow Jesus and learn the Bible. So that's an important piece. All right. Any other, not just happenings, but any other like biblical, theological, ethical questions, strategic questions, thoughts, concerns, anything to kick around with the listeners here?
Oh, man. Oh, I could think of something.
Okay. Give me what you got.
I don't know. We don't have to go into it. We're talking a lot yesterday about differences between complementarian and egalitarian. We're talking about women's role in ministry and things like that. But yeah, that you and I and Elizabeth talked about that, and just yesterday it was cool. I got a book recently that is on that topic. I'm excited to read it, and I have room to learn more than anything. I was raised just passively with a certain viewpoint, but it's an interesting topic, hot topic.
A little bit. So like Piper, the Council on Biblical Manhood and Womanhood is really kind of where the phrase complementarian was coined. It's like complementarian and egalitarian; those are phrases that are relatively new. But whether they're new or not, the concepts and the theology that they represent is not new. But our church would be a complementarian church, for sure. But I think the question is, like, as you flesh out complementarianism on the ground, what does that look like? So I think the debate, it's not a debate, but like the discussion at our church and at several Southern Baptist churches, I mean, you could just look up, like, we, as a denomination, as the convention, we kicked out Saddleback Church. Yeah. Like, kicked them out of the convention for the way that they handled this issue in particular. So, like, it's definitely a hot topic within a complementarian denomination, but, like, it's how do you flesh it out on the ground? What's the threshold for your complementarianism? So that's what we were talking about yesterday. Like, I would, I think the office of senior pastor is reserved for men. I think the Sunday morning pulpit is reserved for men. I think leadership in the home is a man's responsibility. I think the title of pastor is reserved for men. But that's about it for me. Like, I have a lot of wiggle room kind of under that umbrella, if you will. Yeah. So, it says, and others wouldn't. And so, but there's a lot of ways to interpret complementarianism and apply it. But it's not born out of chauvinism. It's born out of the text of Scripture. Like 1 Timothy 2 is the kind of the seminal text for this issue, and how you interpret that and how you apply it. I would interpret it in a complementarian way, and it's just a matter of how do you apply that complementarianism today. Mm-hmm. Some people, like, I have some egalitarian friends from seminary that are like, yeah, that passage, you shall not let a woman teach or exercise authority. That passage was just for back then. Like, Paul was just telling that to Timothy about the church in Ephesus. Like, that doesn't apply to us today. I'm like, how naive is that hermeneutic? Like, you can't apply that hermeneutic to anything else in Scripture. Like, anyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Romans 10. That only applied to them. That doesn't apply to us. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, that is a slippery slope. And so, to me, that's a foolish interpretation. A better interpretation is that a woman shouldn't teach or exercise authority, but what does that look like? You can't just say that. Like, how does it actually flesh itself out in your church in Leesburg, Florida in 2024? And so anyways, that's not everything we talked about yesterday, but I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that matter.
Not really. Well, I guess I've learned a little bit in our discussions how, it gets just, it's not really a difference in just you say something different so it doesn't seem like that, but like, a female youth director or children's director, like the title is director, and doesn't mean it's a pastor doing all the pastor things, but you call her a director. But like, there are differences in the title and the description, stuff like that. But I've learned a lot lately on the differences in complementarianism, so it's really cool.
Yeah, like, I would personally be comfortable with a female youth director. Some wouldn't, some would. I would be. But it would be under the leadership of a male senior pastor, and the female youth director would not be a substitute preacher on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
In the, like, main worship service, the main Sunday morning pulpit. but I'd be comfortable with a female youth director. It's still a matter of like
preaches to the youth every week, but it's not actual.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful. Like we probably have to be careful with the word preaches. Like we probably have to. I know it's like you're like really getting into semantics here, but like we probably have to use the word like teaches or speaks. Like I know that sounds silly, but like we probably have to like say like yeah she spoke tonight or taught the Bible tonight, and like not she preached tonight if it's a Wednesday night or whatever. But like I would personally be comfortable with like a female youth director. It just have to be the right person. Like I would never put that person in place because they're a female, but if it's the right leader, irregardless of gender, then let's go. So, yeah. But not everybody would be comfortable with that. I don't know if you'd be comfortable with that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, that is true that, like you mentioned yesterday when we were talking about it, that women have spiritual gifts of speaking and leading and things like that. And so you don't want to just DEI, whatever, like just put somebody in to include everybody. But there are women with certain gifts that can be exercised in specific ways.
Yeah, Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 12, like the Holy Spirit gives gifts indiscriminately. Like it's not like the Holy Spirit only gives the gifts of leadership and administration and teaching. I'm trying to think of some other gifts in those lists, but those are good examples.
Healing and speaking in tongues.
Hey, now. That's a whole nother topic. But it's not like he gives those gifts just to men. Like, no, he gives those gifts to men and women. It's not a matter of, like, whether or not women have the gift of teaching. Some of them do, some of them don't. But those that do, like, how do they exercise it? And so I think that's more of the question is not whether or not the Holy Spirit gives those gifts to men and women or just men. Like, no, he gives them indiscriminately. But how do they get exercised in the church? To me, that's the question. I hope there's not somebody out there saying that, like, no women have the gift of teaching. There's some great female teachers, man.
Yeah.
But, like, where can they teach? I think is the question. Yeah, I think that good hot topic. Thanks for bringing that one up.
Yeah.
Hesitate to ask if you have any more. So, what's going on in the sports world? Let's wrap this thing up.
Oh, man. Well, if I brag on my highs, I got to bring up the lows. I'm no longer undefeated in that one dynasty league that I was 8-0, and I had a couple close calls when I got lucky to win on a bad week, and I played a guy his points for is much more impressive than his record, but I was thinking this guy might take me, and it was kind of close, but this is maybe a selfish or prideful, but it's good to know that I like the sleeper app will tell you, because you have guys on your bench that don't get you actual points because you need to start a specific amount of players and then you get points based off their performance. But the sleeper app always tells you how many points you scored, but then also your total score you could have had if you played all the right guys.
Oh.
And my total possible score was lower than what this guy scored. And actually, he scored 100% of the points that he could have. He played all the right guys. Mm-hmm. So pridefully, I'm like, he had to really have his best week, 100% of his score to take me down. But my highest points for wouldn't have beat him anyways. And so I like not being like, you lose by 7, and if you played the different wide receiver, you would have had 10 more points or something.
Yeah.
So that gave me peace of mind. And I'm also just working on not idolizing football. And so in the previous couple months, I've cared way too much about it. And I don't cuss and punch holes in walls and break furniture, but like I get too emotionally invested in it, and it can like ruin my day. And so I'm still not really glad I lost, but I'm glad that it didn't like hit me as bad as it might have. You know, I've gradually cared less about football in general, as much as I care enough about it. I love watching it. I love you and me and some of the guys around, like it just builds a part of your relationship when you talk sports with somebody. But I still need to care less about it than I have been. So
fair enough.
Moment of conviction there. But yeah, lost in that. I won in hours. I'm looking pretty good in our league. I'm like 6-3.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm like 1-8.
But that's the beauty of Dynasty is if you're not first, you want to be last, you know.
Yeah, actually though, yeah, I'm trying
Hot
to tank with integrity in our
Doing a
league.
good job.
So far so good.
It's like the Patriots and Jags. By the way, speaking of Patriots and Jags, Mac Jones is the backup. Trevor Lawrence has a shoulder issue and
Mac
might
Jones
not play
is our
next
backup?
week. Mac Jones.
Since when?
I think last year the Pats traded him to you guys for like a 6th round pick or 7th round pick or something. So I forgot he was there.
I didn't even know that. Huh.
He had his moments, and so it might not be totally awful, but you're playing the Vikings, so that's kind of a loss anyways, but I've seen bigger upsets, so you never really know.
So Mac Jones is starting for the Jaguars this week. Wow. Huh.
Oh, also I got to, since I talked about my shortcomings, I got to brag a little bit. After this last week, I've hit the century mark in how many correct games I've predicted this year.
Oh, wow.
So there's been 9 weeks. 9 weeks. And I'm at 101 correct guesses and like 36 or 32 incorrect ones or something. 37.
It's not bad.
I'm under 40 in my games I've gotten wrong. My brother, my friend, and I predict all the games each week just for fun. There's no money involved. Just pride and things to be upset about. An extra thing to be upset about if you care too much about it.
Your car's on the line.
Yeah,
at the end of the season. Yeah. Playing for Pinks.
So I've got 101 right. My friend Jordan has gotten, I think, 95 right, and then Matt is 80-something. So maybe he's not – I don't know if he's that close to me, Jordan. But anyways, hit the century mark. 101. Zoe 101. 101 Dalmatians.
Okay, all right. Let's see. So the Jags stink, obviously. The UCF
S-U-C-K.
Knights. S-T-I-N-C-K. Wait, no. S-T-I-N-K.
Stink.
They stink. They are, yeah. The UCF Knights football, we got our first win. Broke a 5-game losing streak. Started the season 4-0. Went 0-5. So now we're 5-5.
Oh, man.
Hopefully we can save our bowl eligibility and still get a decent bowl game. We'll see. UCF basketball tipped off 64-61 season opener against Texas A&M. We won.
Dang. That's a good game.
That's a fun one. I have not looked at the roster. I didn't watch that game, so I enjoy watching UCF basketball, but I need to get up to speed on that team.
Yeah.
Because of the stinking transfer portal, man. Like, just so much turnover from year to year on that team. So I don't even know who's on it, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you. But the biggest, saddest news of them all is the Orlando Magic. But probably the thing in sports that I care the most about, of all the Jaguars, UCF sports, fantasy football, I care the most about the Orlando Magic. And we took a big loss the other day. So right after we podcasted, actually. Not right after, but later that night. So we podcasted last Thursday, and the Jaguars had just lost to the Chicago Bulls. I think I titled
Jaguars lost to Chicago Bulls.
What did I say? The Magic. Sorry, yeah, the Jaguars. They probably.
So I normally don't point out when you say something.
They probably would lose to the Bulls. The Magic. This is how sad I am about it. So the Magic lost to the Bulls, and then we podcasted the next day. I think I titled that episode like Josh Giddey or something. That's how mad I was about it. And then later that night, just a couple hours after we podcasted, news broke that Paolo Banchero is out indefinitely. And that's a big deal because he was playing at an all-NBA pace. Like, he was going to get all-NBA something, third team, second team, first team. Like, it was almost guaranteed. And so he tore his oblique. He'll be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks, I guess, 3 to 5 weeks from now. And the reevaluation is like, you're reevaluated, you're healing up good, you can come back in a couple weeks. Like, the 3 to 5 weeks is not when he's coming back.
Yeah.
The 3 to 5 weeks is when they'll take another look at him. And if they say you're not healing and you need surgery, he's out for the season.
Oh, man.
It's like, we don't know. But the earliest he comes back is probably Christmas. Probably. And
shoot, we got January 25th, late nights going to a Magic game, so we got to hope we get some Paolo Banchero.
If he's coming back, he'll be back by then.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play in late January, he's out for the season. But if he's coming back, he'll be back by that game. I'm going to a game in like 4 weeks that he definitely will not play at. But we're playing the Suns, so I'll still get to see KD KD, you better play if you're listening. You better not sit that one out. If I go to that game and Paolo and KD both don't play, I'm gonna be so mad.
That would not be.
I'm gonna ask for my money back. That's crazy. Mark my words. If we come in here after December 8th when we play the Suns and Paolo had to not play and then KD sat for some reason, I'm gonna be furious.
Oh man,
that would be terrible.
Some kind of 50% refund or something.
Gosh. Anyways, he's out and we stink without him, man. Like, we've lost 5 in a row. We were on a 5-game road trip. We went 0-5 on the road trip, and we scored 85. We scored 86. Like, we just don't know how to score without him. We don't know how to play without him.
Yet without him.
Last night, finally. So last night we almost beat the Pacers. We were in Indiana. It was the end of our road trip. I can't stand the Pacers. We've talked about them before, but we almost beat them. They pulled away. We came back. We were down 18. We came back and tied it. They were up 13. We came back and tied it. Like, we were hanging in there. I think we ended up losing. Like, we scored 111 or something. So we did break 100, which is good to see. We weren't stuck at 85, 86 anymore. But we lost. Like, we're not here for moral victories. And so it's just been tough to watch because, like, we're trying to keep the proverbial ship afloat. And it is sinking. we are really, really struggling without Paolo. And so, I don't know, man. Like, I guess I heard this morning, I listened to a podcast this morning about how, the Pacers are 4-4. It's like they don't have a great record, but they're third in the East. It's like the East is still up for grabs. It's different from the West.
Yeah, I was going to ask if, at the pace they're losing at, if he does come back healthy in December and plays the rest of the year, can still turn around and make the playoffs at a lower seed?
I would be surprised. So if he's out for the season, it'll be tough to make the playoffs and then do anything in the playoffs. If he comes back at Christmas, we'll make the playoffs. It's just a matter of where we're seated.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because we came into this season like home court advantage is a guarantee. Not a guarantee, but a must. And well within reach. Because we missed home court advantage last season by like 1 game. So I don't think we're fighting for home court advantage anymore. I think we're just fighting to make the playoffs. And if he comes back, I think we'll make the playoffs. But if he doesn't come back, man, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So it was just sad to see. Like, we were on the up and up. It's not a total loss either. I mean, what's our record now? Probably like 3-6. Probably. I don't know actually. I think we are 3-6, so it's not a total loss. It's we're not beyond repair because we're only 10% of the way through the season. But enough about that. That's just the biggest news in my sports world. Made me sad. So I thought it was fake news. Like when I was sitting there, I saw it pop up, and it said like posted 1 minute ago, and it said like Paulo injured, out for 4 to 6 weeks. Like it was Halloween, and I was like, this is not real. Like, there's no way this is real.
Like an April Fool's trick or treat.
I don't know what I was thinking, but it was like so outlandish because he just scored 31 the night before. Like I was like, there's no, like, what did he do? Did he like trip and fall at his hotel? Like, how did he injure himself?
Yeah.
Apparently, he injured himself in the Bulls game and kept playing. Is what happened. But I didn't believe it, and then people started texting me like, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." It's real.
Jeez.
So, and I saw some like other credible sources posting it, and I was like, it's real. So, anyways, all right. Anything else ministry related, sports related, life related? What else we got?
I actually do care more about fantasy football than the Patriots' success right now, partially because I'm in tank mode with the Pats. Gerard Mayo, if you're listening, let's keep losing. They have decent potential. Drake May has actually looked well. I was going to say okay. I just didn't want to rhyme on accident. Drake May has looked okay. And so it's kind of a win-win if we still have a bad year. Get a top draft pick or top draft class, because if you're the last team, you get the top pick or 2 in every round, which is great. So he's looking good and they're losing, and so that's kind of a win-win for me. I was skeptical that they should even play him yet, but he's a gunslinger, and that's what lost us a game in overtime and versus the Titans. He just checked an interception. Like, Titans got the ball, went down, kicked a field goal, so we can touchdown and go home winning. and I think it was a first down midfield. He just bombed it, and it was intercepted. But I was telling you this the other day. Also, I'm excited for Ravens-Bengals tonight. That I have some fantasy football implications.
Is that the game
should
tonight?
Just be a good game. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thursday Night Football.
That is a good game.
The Patriots. Oh yeah, the race is so tight for the playoffs and to be like a top seed. Because the reason I think you're a good fan if you want your team to lose in order to rebuild is because you don't want to be the team that just always squeaks out 6 or 7 wins somehow and is not nearly close enough to make the playoffs, but not nearly close enough to have a top 5 or 10 pick.
The Chicago Bulls.
No man's land forever,
yeah.
I guess, yeah. The Titans are the prime example. Like, they've hardly ever been the worst team, but they've never, well, not never. They went to a Super Bowl like 25 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, they lost to the Rams in the 1999 Super Bowl. So a little over 25 years ago.
The more you know.
Yeah. Wow. I've got the Super Bowl.
We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
You don't have 60 seconds.
So Mitch has all 58, 59. How many is there?
50. Oh, that you got me there. I think this one coming up is 59. So 58.
Mitch has all 59 Super Bowls. Who played and who won? You have it all memorized, right?
Yeah. I don't have the scores.
Not the score.
I don't have the. Some of them I know the scores. Some I remember the MVP, and most of them I don't remember where it was played. I can name a couple because I know the Bucks and Rams won in Tampa and in LA back-to-back years. First 2 times ever a team has played technically a home game in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some specific stats so I love Super Bowl history, and so I'm just a nerd, and I time myself, see how fast I can name them. I've named them out loud while solving a Rubik's Cube. And a few weeks ago I was in my office, and I was timing how fast I could do it. I have these juggling balls, and so I was juggling and trying to name the Super Bowls, and that actually was way harder than the Rubik's Cube thing because it's like if I dropped one, I had to restart.
This sounds like some of the best Instagram and TikTok content.
Yeah, I should make some kind of videos of this stuff. Like, why not?
We're putting it on our student ministry TikTok as well.
Okay,
you're gonna go viral.
All right.
People would eat that up if people eat up the craziest things on TikTok. But if there's a video of you juggling and reciting all the Super Bowl winners, and then we edit it with like some music and like the logos of the opponents and the winner for every one.
That sounds pretty cool.
Dude, people will eat that up. Oh my gosh.
I'm down.
All right, let's do it.
We'll do it one day.
We'll do it today.
Oh,
not today.
I don't know about today.
Not today.
But I get a Rubik's Cube in my backpack too, so we can do that one. Right?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? All right, we gotta wrap this thing up. This has been another episode of Effective Student Ministry.
It has.
This is Garrett.
This is Mitch.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
We won't see you, but like you'll hear us.